As funerals went, Danielle's had been lovely. The sun had emerged from the clouds right before the service started, as if to pay tribute to the lively young woman whose life had been so cruelly cut short. Annie had slipped in the back of the church, wanting to say a formal goodbye to the girl she had barely known, but felt such a strong connection to. Sheriff Denton had been in attendance, seated a few rows from the back on the other side of the church from Annie. Her face more drawn than usual, unshed tears glistening in her eyes. The sheriff's quietly contained grief was profound, and Annie guessed she was remembering her own daughter's funeral. Later, sitting on the floor of Chelsea's bedroom, painting her toenails a vivid blue, Annie promised herself she would somehow sort out the mystery surrounding the killer wolf. Chelsea had asked 2 other girls from school to join them in their girls' evening, which had started on a more subdued note than usual, since all of them were a bit preoccupied with thoughts of Danielle. "I hope when I die that many people show up to my funeral," Caroline said as she carefully painted her nails. "Did you know her well?" Annie asked curiously. "Well enough to know she wouldn't have been out in those woods alone." Caroline twisted the lid back on her nail polish bottle and leaned forward conspiratorially. She hated the woods, especially at night. There's a makeout spot up near the ridge, but Brad could never get Danielle to go there. She thought it was creepy. Which is why it was the perfect spot for Brad to take other girls, since there was no chance of Danielle busting him, Michaela shared cynically from her spot on the bed where she was flicking idly through a magazine. "I used to see him up there sometimes with one of the cheerleaders from another town." She looked up and met Caroline's eyes. "You know, the one with the gorgeous dark red hair?" "Oh, her! I love her hair." Caroline's eyebrows shot up. "Brad was hooking up with her?" Michaela nodded. "Yep, you can't fault his taste, even if his morals stink." "And who were you up there with, girl?" Chelsea demanded. She was in front of the mirror straightening her hair. "I didn't know you were dating anyone." "Don't go getting nasty ideas. My sister and I go there when my parents are having one of their screaming matches. We've been doing it for years, long before someone figured out it would be a great makeout spot and spread the word." Annie bit her lip. Sometimes she wished she had normal parents, but Michaela's comment reminded her how lucky she was her parents still cared about each other despite their troubled past. "What was Danielle doing in the woods then?" Chelsea asked the question on the tip of Annie's tongue. "My guess is she was drugged and dragged out there," Caroline shared. It was a feasible theory, but also an unlikely one. Minutes before her death, Danielle had been running through the forest, and there'd been no hint of fogginess or sluggishness in her mind. Annie would have felt it. Of course, Caroline didn't have the inside knowledge Annie did. Michaela shook her head. "The police didn't say anything about drugs, and you know if they'd found drugs in her system, we would have all had to endure a pep talk in the school hall about the dangers of drugs and intoxication." She rolled her eyes meaningfully. "You're kidding, right? If there were school meetings in response to every drug-related murder in New York, no one would ever get to class." "Nope. If one kid falls off the wagon, we all bear the consequences. Welcome to small-town life, Annie." Chelsea snickered. Last year at the junior prom, someone spiked the punch. When the matrons finally noticed everyone was punch drunk, they closed the prom down early. Who are the matrons? Alex hadn't mentioned anything about that, so it must have happened after he'd left. A group of town women who kind of take charge of any event requiring decorating, food, and beverages. They have a proper name, I think, but over the years they've become known as the matrons, Chelsea explained dismissively. But that's not the point of the story. That Monday after the prom, the entire junior year was called into the hall where the sheriff, mayor, and district judge lectured us about how irresponsible we'd been, the disappointment and disgrace we had brought on the town, blah, blah, blah. "Don't forget how they invited us to dob in the culprit," Caroline added snidely. As if anyone would be that stupid. I'm not exactly sure who it was, but I'll bet it was one of Alex Hamilton's crew, and there's no way anyone would want to cross him." Annie blinked. Her time with Alex was so insular, it was strange to be reminded her friends would have known him, the old him that he'd described to her in such detail. Knowing him as she did, it was hard to imagine anyone being scared of him. "Then they made us attend these really boring workshops on the dangers of alcohol poisoning and underage drinking," Chelsea muttered. "The whole year suffered because one person did the wrong thing. That's how it works here, Annie." "So if Danielle wasn't high, do you two have another theory about what happened to her?" Annie asked Caroline and Michaela eagerly. "Were either of you at that party?" They both shook their heads. "All I know is she was fine when I saw her at the end of the basketball game." Caroline picked a silver nail polish bottle and started painting tiny polka dots on her bright pink nails. Something either happened at the party or immediately after she left. "My theory is she must have thought someone was in trouble in the woods." Michaela tossed the magazine aside and sat up. That's the only thing that would have convinced her to overcome her fear. Which means someone must have planted that idea in her head, Annie mused. And most probably led her into the woods, Chelsea finished. But who? Who could possibly have a grudge against Danielle so big they wanted to kill her? Nobody had an answer. Annie knew a wolf was responsible for Danielle's death, but it was a wolf with abnormal behavior. Perhaps someone had led Danielle to that particular wolf, knowing it would hunt and kill her. "Yo, Earth to Annie!" Chelsea clicked her fingers in front of Annie's face. "Oh, sorry, I drifted off for a moment. What were you saying?" "The girls want to know if anyone's invited you to prom yet." Annie blushed, embarrassed to admit no one had asked her. "I don't really know any guys well enough yet, except Adrian, and he's interested in Chelsea, not me." Chelsea snorted. "He isn't. You have an overactive imagination." "No, Annie's right," Michaela said with a mischievous grin. "I've seen him watching you when you're not looking." "I'm going to prom with Steven, so I'm more than happy for Annie to go with Adrian." Chelsea crossed her arms defensively. "Thanks," Annie said dryly. "Maybe I'll go stag." "You can't go stag," Caroline jerked upright. "That would be the worst." Annie rolled her eyes, her thoughts going to Alex's ruined face. "There are worse things than having no date for prom." "I'll suggest to Adrian that he ask you," Chelsea offered. "Or there's Michael," Michaela suggested. "He's cute, and I don't think he's asked anyone yet." Annie flopped back on the carpet with a feeling groan. "Guys, can we please talk about something else?" "Sure. Do you have a dress yet?" Maria had left a delicious smoked chicken, sun-dried tomato, and feta salad in the fridge, which Alex had served up with crusty bread at the kitchen table. They had then dug into the chocolate brownie Annie had made that morning. "Damn, you're a good cook," Alex murmured appreciatively. His tongue snaked out and collected a stray crumb from the corner of his mouth. The innocent move did strange things to Annie, her stomach doing a funny little backflip, which she did her best to ignore. Her plan had been to get to know Alex purely on a friendship level. They were both damaged in their own ways and could offer each other support, company, and understanding. And yet, the more she got to know him, the more attracted to him she was becoming, and she didn't know what to do about it. She kind of wanted to talk to him about it, but he was so hung up about his face, he probably wouldn't believe her. "I like baking. Mom's not that great in the kitchen, so out of necessity I learned how to cook. I like to experiment a bit, but I didn't have time this morning. Feel free to experiment on me anytime you like. I love food pretty much any way it comes." Annie smiled. "I just might do that. Mom is usually so distracted she doesn't notice what she's putting in her mouth." Alex reached for another piece of brownie. "I won't have that problem." His teeth sank into the soft center, and he moaned appreciatively. How was your girls' day? Informative in some respects, horrendous in others. Her eyes followed the movement of his throat as he swallowed. Catching herself, she shook her head to try and clear her thoughts. What's that supposed to mean? Let's just say I don't get what the big deal about prom is. Annie propped her elbows on the table with a sigh. I guess I'm just not a girly girl. Alex snorted. Your nails suggest otherwise. Her fingernails had started out vivid blue until Caroline had decided to glam them up a bit with silver tips. She smiled sheepishly. That's what you do when you're hanging with the girls. So, who are you going with? Alex asked casually, dusting icing sugar off his fingers with extreme concentration. Oh, not you too. What? I'm not going with anyone, although apparently that's not allowed, so I suspect by the end of the week I'll have a date, she said in exasperation. Oh. Annie looked at him sideways, and suddenly her stomach was flooded with butterflies. I don't suppose you'd go with me? Alex's jaw dropped. You wouldn't seriously want to go to prom with me looking like this. She studied his damaged face, so used to being around him she barely noticed the scars anymore. Actually, I would. I'd have fun with you, which would be heaps better than being set up with someone I don't know. Something flickered in his eyes. You have a hell of a lot of courage. More than I've got. That's not true. I'm being entirely selfish, really. He glanced away, but she could read the tension in the set of his shoulders. I'm sorry, Annie, but I can't. I know. She'd had to ask anyway, just in case. His right hand was clenched into a fist on the table, and she reached out to wrap both her hands around it. It's okay, Alex. I understand. His head bowed. I wish it could be different, that I could be different, but... He looked so defeated, his earlier lightheartedness gone. Alex, look at me. Slowly, he lifted his head. Annie bit her lip at the sight of his vulnerable eyes. I shouldn't have asked you when I knew you wouldn't be able to. I'm sorry. No, I'm glad you asked. You'll never know how much it means that you can look past all this. He gestured at his face. Maybe one day, I'll be able to look past it. Annie smiled and let go of his hand. Shall I tell you what else we talked about yesterday? He shook his head. In a minute. First, I want to know if you have a dress yet, he said, uncannily echoing Michaela's words from yesterday. If I can't be at prom, I at least want to know what you're going to look like. Oh, Annie was momentarily nonplussed. Chelsea and I are going shopping next Sunday in Charlotte, but it will probably be something black, maybe blue if I'm feeling adventurous. Chelsea would no doubt choose something dramatic and give Annie a hard time for her conservative choice. You should wear red, Alex said quietly. With your dark hair and ivory skin, you'd look amazing in red. You think? Annie squeaked. Definitely. Will you do that for me? Find a red dress? He asked in the same soft tone. Okay, I guess. And not dark red either, he said knowingly. It's got to be a bright fire engine red. Annie scowled. Did you want to dictate my underwear as well? She drawled sarcastically. His eyes flared, and he had to clear his throat before answering. Don't tempt me. She rolled her eyes. Are we done with prom talk now? I'd really like to tell you about something else we talked about. Alex grinned lazily and leaned back in his chair, the picture of relaxed satisfaction. By all means, please go ahead. Annie filled him in on the girls' theories around Danielle's death. So what do you think? Danielle wouldn't have driven to the party, right? Actually, I don't know. Let's assume she didn't. Alex rose to his feet and wandered over to the coffee machine, lifting a cup and raising his brow in question at Annie while he kept talking. She nodded yes. She either got a lift home with someone from the party, or she called a taxi. Either that, or she walked, but I imagine someone who was afraid of the woods wasn't likely to walk home alone in the dark. Right, so we either have a psycho taxi driver, or it has to be someone who was at the party. There's only one taxi driver in Ridgeville, Earl. He's about 70 and gentle as a lamb, so I think we can eliminate him. He placed a steaming cup of coffee in front of Annie, returning to the machine to make his own. Annie frowned. I talked to all the cheerleaders and the basketball players, and they were all right there until the end of the party, or so they say. Maybe there were others at the party, Alex suggested. Everyone's got smartphones. There must have been photos taken that night. Probably, but no one's going to let me look through their phone. Alex smiled. Social media, princess. Teenagers these days can't take a step without posting it on their socials. I don't follow any of that crowd. Are you still, Picking up the coffee he'd made himself, he nodded stiffly. I never post anything myself, but since no one's unfriended me, I can still check in on what's going on in the real world. He shrugged awkwardly and averted his gaze. Sometimes I like to see what normal kids are up to. Like a child with their face pressed up against the glass of a candy shop window, Alex longed for what he couldn't have. You must get lonely sometimes. Alex grinned at her crookedly. Not so much since you barged into my life. I did not barge, Annie spluttered indignantly. You were pretty pushy, though. He took a sip of his coffee to hide his smile. I thought you were going to stage a sit-in if I didn't show you my face. Annie thought of that day in the forest and grimaced. She had been pushy, determined to find out his secret. Sorry, I didn't mean to railroad you. Dumping his mug in the sink, Alex sauntered over to her and ruffled her hair playfully. Since I'm no longer withering away from boredom and loneliness, I can't exactly say I regret your stubbornness. I'd rather call it tenacity. He grinned, but didn't tease her any further. Come on, it's about time I gave you a tour of the rest of the house, and then we can tackle Insta and TikTok. Annie hadn't been upstairs yet and was excited to see what else the house held to keep Alex entertained in his self-imposed prison. He led her to the top of the staircase where there was a large open landing dividing the two wings of the house. The view through the full-length windows took in most of the town and the beginnings of the forest. This was probably where Alex had stood and watched her walk into the woods day after day, waiting him out. I can see my house from here, she murmured, wandering over to take in the full view. Alex came up beside her. Which one is it? She pointed at one of the larger homes off to the right, a couple of streets back. The one with the gray roof. With the panoramic windows in the top story? Annie nodded. That's Mum's studio. It was all those windows that sold her on the house. I bet she's up there now, right? Almost certainly. Turning her back to the view, she contemplated the two wings. Which way first? Alex pointed to the left and opened the first door off the hallway into a dark room. He flicked a switch and light flooded a huge home cinema room, with a projector screen taking up most of the far wall and comfortable reclining chairs laid out symmetrically before it. The next door opened into what Annie thought of as a games room, complete with pool table, mini bar, and an enormous flat-screen television with more gaming consoles hooked up to it than Annie had ever seen in a single room. She raised a brow at Alex, who shrugged as if to say he had no defense. The rest of the wing was devoted to guest bedrooms, and at the end of the hall, a staircase leading to the third floor. What's upstairs? Maria's apartment, plus a couple of extra guest bedrooms if we need them. His mouth twisted. Which we don't these days. The room on the left of the other wing led into a study cum library, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lining 3 of the 4 walls and a long mahogany table surrounded by dark brown leather bucket seats, taking up the center of the room. A huge computer screen sat in the center of the table, which was scattered with notepads, pens, and various textbooks, some of which Annie recognized from her own classes. This must be where Alex did his remote learning. There was a warmth to this room that was absent from many of the others, which Annie put down to the plethora of worn old books, interspersed with new titles lining the shelves. "I love this room. It's a reader's paradise," she murmured, with a little squee of delight. Alex was leaning against the doorframe, watching her meander around the room. "I'm gathering you're one of those readers. When I couldn't get back to sleep after living through a particularly horrendous murder, the escapism of a good book kept me sane." "Or sane-ish, anyway," she said with an impish grin. "I used to think reading was a pastime for nerds," he admitted, crossing his arms defensively over his broad chest, the action pulling the fabric of his polo shirt tight around his biceps. Annie swallowed hard. "But in the last year, I've been working my way through the books in here." "Any favorites?" she asked, trying to distract herself. "I'm partial to Lee Child's and the Wheel of Time series, but I also enjoy some of the older stuff like The Great Gatsby." "Really?" Annie grimaced. "I know it's meant to be an American classic, and I tried really hard to like it, but I just couldn't see why it was so great. I mean, most of the characters sucked, and there was no justice for Gatsby." Alex grinned and pushed away from the doorframe. "Ah, princess, you're a romantic and you need a happy ending," he murmured. "Come on, I'll show you my room and then we can come back here and do our research." "It's not that I have to have a happy ending," Annie protested as she followed him out of the room. "I just like the bad guys to get what they deserve in the end. It's not right for people to get away with doing the wrong thing while the good guys lose out. But that's life. Things don't always turn out the way we'd like them to." He stepped back so she could precede him into his room. "Of all the murders you've witnessed, was every killer caught?" "No, but that's why I like books to at least have better endings," she argued. "The whole point of reading is to shut the door on the real world for a while and step into a world where anything can happen, even the impossible." "Like I said, you're a romantic," Alex said with a crooked smile. "I'm not saying it's a bad thing. In fact, it's kind of cute." "Cute," Annie huffed, but didn't pursue the argument. She was much more interested in seeing what Alex's sanctuary would reveal. The color scheme in his room was darker than the rest of the house. The walls were painted a dark gray, and the curtains were navy blue and gray stripes. A white ceiling prevented it from being overpoweringly dark and gloomy. It was very masculine and suited him. It was also huge. A king-size bed sat in the center of the far wall, between two large bay windows, effectively dividing the room into zones. One side of the room had been made into an intimate reading nook with a comfortable armchair, ottoman, and a side table stacked with books and magazines. Annie wandered over and examined what he was reading. A Ben Elton book was top of the pile of books, but sitting on the ottoman was a car magazine, folded open on a photo of a gleaming black Maserati. Annie looked over at Alex. "Is this the next car on the wish list?" He smiled ruefully and nodded. "Nice." The other section of the room revealed yet another side to Alex, and Annie marveled at his many and differing interests. Two guitars stood in stands beside a drum stool, one acoustic, the other electric. Sheet music was scattered on the floor, and on top of the state-of-the-art stereo system, along with a couple of picks. "Is this another recent interest, or have you been playing for a while?" "A while," he admitted with a self-conscious shrug. "I don't like to play in front of people, so no one ever knew I had an interest in music." His comment belied the confidence of his former exalted social status. She was discovering there were many layers to Alex, and while he may have considered himself shallow, Annie certainly didn't think that was the case. "You used to play sport in front of people, so why not music?" "It's different." His gaze shying away from hers, He shoved his hands in the pockets of his jeans. Music makes you vulnerable. You have to draw on your emotions to be any good, and I've never been very adept at sharing that kind of stuff with anyone. Annie was no stranger to what music demanded from a person. Her dad poured his heart and soul into everything he played, and while he found it cathartic, not everyone was comfortable with expressing that depth of feeling to an audience. She gestured at the Blizzard poster on the wall. "You're a fan?" He grinned sheepishly. Guilty. "I've seen them perform several times. Your dad's awesome." "Yeah, he is," she said proudly. "But he's also a bit of a pain in the butt." Alex laughed. She thought about asking him why there were no photos anywhere in his room, but she figured she knew why. What was the point in surrounding himself with photos of the friends who didn't care enough to find out if he was still alive, or of the father who had abandoned his disfigured son? Alex led the way back to the library, and she pulled up one of the bucket chairs next to the one he'd dropped into and watched while he set up his iPad on a vertical stand. It suddenly occurred to her there would probably be a profile photo of him on his social pages, and she wondered how he would feel about her seeing it. His hand hovered uncertainly over the Instagram app icon, and she figured he'd had the same realization. She pushed her chair back and got up. "I'll give you some privacy while you get to the relevant posts." "Don't you want to see what I used to look like?" he asked abruptly, his expression guarded. "No, what you look like now is the guy I know." "I thought you'd be curious," he mumbled in surprise. "That other person who goes with the perfect face doesn't exist anymore, and I'm not sure I would have liked him anyway," Annie said honestly, not holding anything back. "I like the person you are now, and the face that goes along with it." Alex grimaced, but she didn't miss the look of relief in his eyes. "You're amazing. Do you know that?" "Yep," she said cheekily. Then a thought occurred to her. "Wait, it's the weekend. Everyone's going to be logged into their socials right now, and they'll see if you're active. Kind of gives away you're still living and breathing." He snatched his hand away from the iPad. "Damn, I hadn't thought of that." "Why don't you wait until tomorrow during a time everyone will be in class?" she suggested. "You shouldn't be noticed then." Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out of her pocket and checked the message. It was Karen. "Are you coming home for dinner? I've got lasagna in the oven." "What time is it?" she muttered and glanced out the window. The afternoon had passed in a flash, and it was nearly dark. "What's the matter?" Alex asked, studying her frown. "Nothing. I didn't realize how late it was. Mum's got dinner cooking." He glanced over his shoulder to look out the window, just as surprised as her to see how dark it was. "The time kinda disappeared. You'd better go." "Do you want to come?" she asked impulsively, not ready to leave him yet. "For dinner? It's dark enough for you to stay suitably concealed, isn't it?" He looked nonplussed. He didn't get invitations to dinner, well, ever. I wouldn't want to intrude," he said, his discomfort evident. "You wouldn't be intruding. It's only Mom and I, and Mom will be delighted to get to know you better." "Then thanks, I'd love to." He smiled shyly and stood up from the table, running his hands nervously down the front of his jeans. Annie shot a quick text back to her mother. "On my way. Alex is coming too." "I have to warn you though, Mom is a bit hit and miss when it comes to cooking. It could be good or completely inedible," she cautioned ruefully. "I don't care. The company will be great," he said simply. Mercifully, it was a good cooking night. The lasagna was melt-in-your-mouth delicious, and served with fresh salad and garlic bread, there was nothing to complain about. "How's the painting going, Mrs. Archer?" Alex asked between mouthfuls. "Karen," she reminded him, and then grinned. "The series I needed to complete for this commission is done, so right now, I couldn't be happier." "When do you have to go to New York?" Annie used the last of her bread to mop up the remaining sauce on her plate. "I leave first thing Friday morning, and I'll be back late Saturday afternoon, in time to take you and Chelsea dress shopping in Charlotte on Sunday." Alex turned to her and mouthed one word. red. Annie attempted to ignore him, but couldn't help the blush spreading up her neck. Oblivious to their interplay, Karen frowned. "Are you sure you're going to be all right on your own?" Annie rolled her eyes. "Mom, I'm 18 now. I'll be fine." "You're going to be staying here by yourself?" Alex questioned, his brows drawn together in concern. "Do you really think that's such a great idea with a killer wolf still on the loose?" "I don't think it's going to come roaming through the streets. I've stayed on my own before. It's really no big deal." "You can stay at my place Friday night," Alex offered. "We've got plenty of spare rooms. You can have your pick." "I really don't think that's necessary," Annie argued, not enjoying being painted as a helpless female. "I do," Karen surprised her by saying. "I'll worry if you're alone, which means I'll probably call you every 15 minutes and drive you crazy." "Mom, it's about 100 times safer here than it ever was in New York." "There weren't killer wolves in New York." Karen turned to Alex. "Maria will be there, right?" Alex nodded. "Nobody made you have a chaperone when you were my age," Annie muttered under her breath. Karen's sharp ears didn't miss a thing. "Maybe they should have." Annie crossed her arms mutinously. "You're making me feel about 5 years old." "Tough," Karen declared. "At least I know nothing can happen to you at Alex's." Alex bit his lip to hold back a smile.